My girlfriend rolled her eyes at me and goes, "You have no taste. This is investment art. You wouldn't understand the cultural significance." This was right after I'd questioned her $15,000 purchase of these digital monkey NFTs for our apartment while I'm working double shifts as a museum security guard just to cover rent. I just looked at her and said, "You're absolutely right. I don't understand." Then I casually mentioned it to my authentication buddies at work, suggested we get everything appraised for insurance, and holy shit, her sophisticated art collection got some very professional attention. She's now slinging coffee at Starbucks in Phoenix after the gallery fired her for selling confirmed forgeries to clients. But okay, let me back up because this whole mess was absolutely wild from start to finish. So I'd been with this girl for like 14 months, right? She worked at this trendy gallery downtown, thought she was hot shit in the art world. I'm just this guy who works security at the Natural History Museum, which sounds super boring but whatever, pays the bills. What she didn't know is that I actually have an art history degree. Never told her because honestly, she never asked, and I kind of liked that she didn't know. But dude, she was constantly buying art. Like constantly. She'd come home with these pieces that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars, talking about how we're building this amazing collection together. Except by we, she meant I pay rent and groceries while she spends everything on art. "This guy's work is about to explode," she'd say, hanging up some canvas that looked like someone barfed paint on it. "I got this piece for only 800, but in 5 years it'll be worth at least 5,000. I'm like, okay, but where's the 800 coming from? Because she made maybe 30 grand a year at the gallery, and our rent alone is 1,800 a month. But every time I asked about money, she'd get this look like I was being small-minded. "You don't invest in art for immediate returns," she'd lecture me. "You invest in cultural significance and long-term value appreciation." Right, cultural significance. While I'm doing overtime to keep the lights on, the pieces kept coming though. This sculpture that was supposedly by someone who studied under someone famous. Digital prints from artists she found on Instagram. And then, oh my God, then came the NFTs. She spent 3 grand on this digital picture of a cartoon monkey wearing sunglasses. $3,000 for a JPEG. "This is the future of art collecting," she explains to me like I'm mentally deficient. "Physical art is so limiting. Digital art can be displayed anywhere, and the blockchain makes it impossible to counterfeit." I'm standing there thinking, you just spent 3 grand on a picture of a monkey that anyone can right-click and save. But sure, tell me about how revolutionary this is. But the really expensive purchase was this series she bought from some guy called CryptoVision. $15,000 for 3 abstract pieces that honestly looked like screensavers from 1995. "Where'd we get 15 grand?" I asked. "I've been saving commission from gallery sales." "What commission?" "When we sell pieces, I get a percentage." I did the math in my head. Even if she got 10%, which would be crazy high, she'd have to sell like $150,000 worth of art in 1 month to make 15 grand. Our gallery was nice, but it wasn't exactly the Met. "That's a lot of sales," I said. "I'm very good at what I do." But here's what really started pissing me off: the way she talked about my taste in art. I'd grown up going to museums, studied this stuff for 4 years, wrote my thesis on authentication techniques. But to her, I was just this security guard who didn't understand sophisticated collecting. We'd go to museums together and I'd mention something about technique or historical context, and she'd be like, "That's such a surface-level observation. Real collectors look for deeper meaning." One time we're looking at this contemporary piece, and I said it reminded me of Rothko's color field work. She actually laughed. "You're seeing the obvious influence instead of the conceptual framework." The conceptual framework of a red square. Got it. So anyway, last month she comes home talking about this sculpture she wants to buy. $25,000. For what looked like someone had taken a bunch of scrap metal and welded it together in their garage. "This artist is about to break through," she's telling me. "His work explores the intersection of industrial decay and organic growth, very cutting edge." Babe, where are we getting 25 grand? I'll figure it out. This is too important to miss. That's when she hit me with the line about my taste and cultural significance. Like I'm some Philistine who can't appreciate fine art. I just stood there looking at her, this person who'd been spending my money on garbage while acting like I'm culturally inferior, and something just snapped. "You know what?" I said. "You're absolutely right, I don't understand." She looked surprised, like she expected me to argue. "I think we should get everything appraised, for insurance." Insurance. Yeah, if we're investing this much in art, we should make sure it's properly covered. I know some people who do authentication work. Her face changed a little. Is that really necessary? Oh, absolutely, especially for pieces this valuable. Here's the thing. Working museum security for 8 years, you get to know everybody. The conservators, the authentication people, the appraisers, and these people fucking love exposing fake art. Nothing makes them happier than someone bringing them a masterpiece that turns out to be worthless. So I called my friend Alina, who does authentication for the museum and private collectors. "Hey, my girlfriend's built this art collection and we need some pieces appraised. Bring them by, I'll take a look." That weekend, I'm like, we should gather everything for the authentication appointment. My girlfriend got so excited. "This is going to be amazing. Wait until they see what we've built." Monday afternoon, we loaded everything into my car. 30 pieces, plus her laptop for the NFT collection. 50 grand worth of art, according to her. Alina's office is in this old building downtown, nothing fancy but professional. She's this tiny woman who's been authenticating art for like 40 years. Takes one look at our collection and I can already see her trying not to smirk. She spent 3 hours examining everything while we waited. Every few minutes I'd hear these little sounds or see her grab different tools. Not exactly confidence-inspiring. Finally, she calls us over. "Well," Alina says, "this is certainly interesting." My girlfriend's beaming. "We're really proud of what we've assembled." "I'm sure. Let me show you what I found." Alina picks up the first piece, the $800 painting from the emerging artist. "This is a print." "What?" "High-quality reproduction. See the dot pattern under this magnifier, worth maybe $50 at Target." I watched my girlfriend's face just crumble. "But the gallery said," "Which gallery?" She names this place I'd never heard of. Alina just nods like she's heard this before. Then Alina moves to the sculpture, the one that was supposedly handmade by someone who studied under someone famous. Cast resin painted to look like bronze, mass-produced, maybe $200 retail. But the certificate, anyone can print certificates. Look how the signature's identical on multiple pieces. It's a rubber stamp. This went on for 2 fucking hours. Alina systematically destroyed every single piece in our collection. Prints sold as originals. Furniture store sculptures sold as handmade art. Emerging artists who turned out to be completely made up, but the NFTs were the absolute worst. "These digital pieces," Alina says, pulling up the laptop, "are AI-generated images with fake backstories. This CryptoVision person doesn't exist. These were created by a computer program and sold to people who don't understand digital authentication. 15 grand for computer-generated abstract shapes. When Alina finished, our $50,000 collection was worth maybe $1,800. Maybe. My girlfriend just sat there completely speechless. I could literally see her brain trying to process how badly she'd been played. "How is this possible?" she finally whispered. Alina looked at her sympathetically. "This happens more than you'd think. Lots of galleries prey on new collectors who want to feel sophisticated but don't know what to look for. But I work at a gallery. I know art. Working near art and authenticating art are completely different skills." We drove home in total silence. I felt bad for her, but I also couldn't stop thinking about all those times she'd talked down to me about my basic taste. That night she's going through all the pieces again, looking for any sign Alina might have been wrong. "Maybe she made a mistake," my girlfriend kept saying. "Alina's authenticated the museum's entire collection. She knows what she's doing." "What museum?" "The Natural History Museum, where I work." She stared at me. "How do you know art authenticators?" And that's when I told her about my degree. About studying this exact stuff for 4 years, about my thesis on Renaissance authentication techniques. You have an art history degree and you let me lecture you about art for over a year. You seemed so confident. But you knew I was wrong. Yeah, but you didn't want to hear it. Every time I questioned something, you told me I didn't understand sophisticated collecting. She was quiet for a long time. Then she goes, "So you just watched me waste $50,000. I watched you spend $50,000 on things you were convinced were valuable while telling me I had no taste. But you could have stopped me. Could I? Because I tried to question that bronze sculpture 6 months ago, and you told me I was being negative and small-minded. That's when everything really fell apart." She started screaming about how I'd sabotaged her, how I'd let her embarrass herself, how I was supposed to protect her from making mistakes. "I'm not your art advisor," I told her. "I'm your boyfriend, and when I tried to give you advice, you shut me down." But wait, it gets worse. The next week she goes back to Derek's gallery demanding refunds. He basically tells her all sales are final and maybe she should have done her homework. So she loses it on social media, posts about being scammed, names the gallery, threatens to report them. The whole thing. Derek fires back with screenshots of their conversations where she's bragging about her connections and sophisticated taste, makes her look like some wannabe art flipper who got mad when she couldn't make a profit. But then other people start commenting. Turns out Derek had been running this scam for years, and a bunch of his customers were coming forward. Someone reported him to the Attorney General. Someone else contacted the FBI art crime team. And Derek, trying to save his own ass, started providing information about everyone he'd sold fakes to, including my girlfriend. Turns out she'd sold 3 pieces from our collection to clients at her gallery. Pieces that were now confirmed forgeries. Even though she didn't know they were fake, she was still technically involved in art fraud. The gallery fired her immediately. Can't have someone under federal investigation working with clients. "This is insane," she told me. "I didn't know they were fake. That's the problem. You were selling art without knowing how to authenticate it." The legal stuff dragged on for months. She had to hire a lawyer to prove she wasn't intentionally part of the fraud ring. Had to sell her car, move out of our place, eventually borrow money from her parents just to cover legal fees. But the real damage was to her reputation. Word got out in the art world that she'd been selling fakes without knowing it. That's career suicide in a field where expertise is everything. No gallery would hire her. No auction house would touch her. She went from being this sophisticated art professional to being known as the person who couldn't tell real art from fake. We broke up about 6 months after the whole thing exploded. Not really because of the money, but because of what it revealed about everything. She'd spent over a year treating me like I was culturally inferior, while I was literally surrounded by priceless art every day at work. Last I heard, she moved back to Arizona and got a job at Starbucks. Her Instagram used to be all these artsy shots of our collection and deep thoughts about emerging artists. Now it's just coffee shop selfies and motivational quotes about starting over. The really fucked up part is that she genuinely loved art, but she loved feeling like an expert more than she loved actually learning. She wanted the status that comes with good taste without doing the work to develop that taste. Me. I learned that when someone dismisses your knowledge while spending your money, they're showing you exactly how much they value you. I learned that confidence without competence is just expensive arrogance. And I learned that sometimes the most sophisticated thing you can do is ask questions instead of making assumptions. My new girlfriend's a librarian. She knows way more about books than I do, and when she recommends something, I listen. When we go to museums, she asks me questions about what we're looking at instead of lecturing me about deeper meanings. It's honest. It's humble. It's fucking wonderful. And when she doesn't understand something about art, she says so. Imagine that.